Chosen one, this is not a casual statement, and it is not dramatic exaggeration. This is a spiritual declaration. Something shifted because of you. Something moved in unseen dimensions before it ever showed up in visible form. In a place filled with countless voices, endless routines, and patterns repeated year after year, your presence disrupted a rhythm that had been cycling for a long time. You may not have seen public recognition, you may not have heard applause, but in the spiritual climate of your nation, your energy was registered, identified, and set apart. It was set apart because it was different. It carried a distinct frequency that could not stay concealed. God recognized it before anyone else ever did. Stay with this message until the very end, because each layer uncovers something deeper about what has taken place through you and what it truly means. As you listen, release your highest intentions into the atmosphere. Let your agreement align with what is unfolding. Now understand this clearly. What you did was not necessarily loud. It was not necessarily public. It may have been a decision you made in private. It may have been something you refused to participate in. It may have been a standard you upheld when others lowered theirs. It may have been restraint when others reacted, discipline when others gave up, integrity when compromise would have been easier. Whatever form it took, it interrupted a pattern. And patterns within nations are not small matters. They are built over decades, reinforced by culture, fear, doubt, repetition, and limitation. When one person breaks a pattern, a signal is released. And when that person carries divine alignment, that signal becomes amplified beyond ordinary measure. There are moments when God appoints a single individual to function as a catalyst. Not because they are the loudest voice, not because they are the most famous name, but because their inner alignment is different. Yours was different. While others were still negotiating who they were, you were quietly establishing who you are. While many were blending into systems to survive them, you were becoming visible in the spirit without trying to be seen. That kind of visibility does not begin in front of cameras or crowds. It begins in unseen dimensions, and once it begins there, it cannot be reversed by public opinion. Every country operates in cycles, cycles of belief, cycles of fear, cycles of success and decline. But occasionally, one individual steps into a frequency that does not match the cycle around them. When that happens, friction is created. That friction is not punishment, it is recognition. When something rises in an environment accustomed to operating lower, tension naturally appears. You may have felt that tension increase as you became stronger. You may have wondered why resistance seemed to grow when your clarity did. But resistance is often confirmation that something foundational is shifting. Your energy is surfacing now because it can no longer be contained by the level where it began. Containment only works when potential is limited. Once potential expands beyond its container, growth becomes inevitable. This is not ego, this is spiritual law. When God breathes expansion into a person, their presence gains weight. That weight can be sensed in rooms. It can be felt in conversations. It can even be felt in silence. There were people in your country who sensed something different about you long before they understood it. They could not define it, they could not explain it, but they felt it. Energy carrying divine assignment unsettles others before it inspires them. Why? Because it exposes stagnation. When you enter a space with growth alive in you, it quietly reveals where others have stopped evolving. That revelation can be uncomfortable. But this is not about them. This is about what has been marked over your life. There are people who achieve milestones, and then there are people whose very existence alters the atmosphere around them. You belong to the second kind. The measure of this impact is not applause. It is the disturbance it causes. Within outdated systems, something you did unsettled a structure. Something you expressed or refused to express challenged a mindset. Something you completed, initiated, or embodied created forward motion. Motion matters because stagnation is the default setting in many environments. When movement enters a stagnant space, it feels disruptive. Yet disruption is often divine. God does not always introduce transformation gently. Sometimes he introduces it through a person whose steady consistency becomes impossible to overlook. You never set out to become a symbol, but symbols are formed when someone refuses to shrink. There are unseen records of your courage, unseen records of endurance, unseen records of faithfulness. Unseen records of faithfulness. What felt like an ordinary decision to you was logged spiritually as a turning point. Nations are not shaped by policies alone. They are shaped by individuals who decline to agree with limitation. What makes this even more powerful is that your rise was not fueled by rebellion alone. It was fueled by clarity, and clarity is different. Rebellion fights systems. Clarity transcends them. When clarity enters a room, confusion begins to weaken. When clarity enters a culture, excuses begin to fade. Your conviction carried a tone that echoed beyond conversation. You were not waiting for permission, and that is strength. Many remain small because they wait for approval from society, family, institutions. But there is a moment when God affirms someone privately long before the world notices. That private affirmation changes posture, it changes tone. It changes energy, and once internal posture shifts, external presence follows naturally. There were nights no one saw you maintain your standard, days no one noticed your discipline over distraction, seasons when you felt invisible. Invisible does not mean unrecorded. Unseen does not mean unmarked. The spiritual realm keeps record of consistency. And consistency over time produces emergence. That emergence is what is unfolding now. Your energy is surfacing because it has matured. Immature energy flickers. Mature energy radiates. It does not need to shout to be acknowledged. It simply exists at a higher level. And when something operates at a higher level, attention follows it without effort. You may have noticed subtle shifts, conversations changing when you enter a room, glances lasting a little longer, whispers circulating, some supportive, some critical. Even negative whispers confirm presence. Silence suggests indifference. Whispers reveal awareness. You have transitioned from being overlooked to being observed. That transition is intentional. In your country, people grow accustomed to predictable outcomes, familiar ceilings, accepted narratives. You stepped outside of a narrative that many had quietly accepted. And when someone steps beyond a storyline, others still live within. It unsettles comfort. But comfort must sometimes be disturbed for transformation to begin. Elevation is never random. It follows preparation. And preparation often feels like isolation. Isolation can feel like delay. But delay was building depth, and depth creates weight. Now your words carry weight. Your actions carry weight. Even your silence carry weight. Even your silence carry weight. Even your silence carry weight. This is why concealment is no longer sustainable for you. Light was never designed to remain hidden indefinitely. When God ignites something within a person, concealment becomes temporary. You may have tried to minimize yourself. You may have attempted to blend in, but destiny does not shrink on command. There are younger eyes watching you quietly, older minds evaluating you silently. Peers measuring themselves without admitting it. Influence does not always announce itself. Often it works through observation. What you did was bigger than a single event. It became a signal. It became a signal that change is possible. A signal that limits can be challenged. A signal that identity does not have to be negotiated to survive. Your presence became evidence, and evidence carries power because it removes excuses. Once something has been accomplished, it cannot return to being impossible. Once a ceiling is broken, it cannot be restored to its former height without effort. You may not yet see the full ripple effect, but ripples always travel farther than the stone that created them. Your energy is emerging now because it has reached overflow. Overflow does not request validation. It simply extends outward. And when overflow meets an environment that has quietly longed for authenticity, recognition begins naturally. You are not merely someone who achieved success. You are someone who altered perception. That carries more weight. That lasts longer. God does not waste alignment. When alignment appears, assignment follows. There is a difference between ambition and calling. Ambition pushes from external pressure. Calling pulls from internal certainty. What you did came from calling. That is why it now feels inevitable. This is not the conclusion of your influence. It is the unveiling of it, and unveiling can feel intense. Visibility can feel heavy, but heaviness is not negative. It signifies importance. Something significant has taken place. The atmosphere senses it. The timing confirms it. The spiritual dimension has already acknowledged it, and even those who doubted will eventually recognize that a shift occurred the moment you chose not to remain small. Your energy is not noise, it is resonance, and resonance cannot be silenced once it locates its frequency. What makes this even more remarkable is that you did not announce yourself before the appointed moment. You did not demand recognition before you were prepared to carry it. You were developing quietly, and silence is where genuine authority is formed. Noise attracts attention. Silence builds depth. While others competed for visibility, you were strengthening your foundation. While others measured themselves against public reactions, you aligned yourself internally with something higher. God was shaping your posture in unseen places, because exposure without formation collapses quickly. What is formed in hidden seasons stands firm when the spotlight eventually arrives. There is something transformative about someone who does what has never been done in their country. It alters collective belief. Even if people do not speak it aloud, they begin to see what once seemed impossible as achievable. You shifted what was considered possible. That is not a minor accomplishment. Possibility multiplies when one person demonstrates it. Others quietly reconsider their own limits. You may never know the full impact of your steadfastness, how many minds were inspired, how many invisible chains were loosened by your refusal to compromise. But the effect is real, and it is expanding. You were not competing with your nation, nor trying to overthrow its identity. You were simply being authentic at a level that surpasses expectations. Authenticity at this frequency can feel threatening to those comfortable with mediocrity. People sensed a shift even if they could not define it. They felt your presence, your quiet strength, your unwavering confidence. This transformation comes from alignment, not ego, and alignment carries divine backing. At a certain point in any significant rise, the person ascending may not fully grasp the magnitude of their impact. You may still go through daily routines, while extraordinary energy has already registered spiritually. Sometimes God unfolds influence gradually so the person can grow into its weight. Sudden awareness can overwhelm. Gradual revelation builds capacity. Your capacity is expanding. Consider the invisible barriers that existed before you stepped forward. Cultural expectations, social ceilings, unspoken limits, generational narratives. You did not confront them loudly, you outgrew them. Outgrowing is more powerful than fighting. Once something is outgrown, its relevance diminishes, and relevance sustains systems. Your energy now carries a distinct signature. It is subtle but undeniable. When you enter spaces, dynamics adjust. Conversations shift. Attention recalibrates. Some lean in, some step back. Both reactions confirm impact. Neutrality cannot remain where energy elevates. God does not amplify people for decoration. Amplification follows Pew. Bros, there is a reason your presence is becoming more noticeable. A reason your name now carries weight. A reason your actions draw closer observation. This is not coincidence. This is sacred timing. Timing cannot be rushed or delayed beyond its appointed moment. You may notice relationships adjusting around you. Some feel inspired, others feel unsettled. Growth naturally separates energies. It is not about superiority, it is about frequency. When frequency shifts, alignment either strengthens or dissolves. You are not responsible for how others interpret your rise. You are only responsible for staying aligned with the source that lifted you. That source is not human approval. It is divine affirmation. God noticed your consistency long before anyone else did. He recognized your resilience before it was acknowledged. He honored your unseen discipline. That is why your actions carry permanence. They were not fueled by comparison, but by conviction. Conviction produces endurance. Endurance builds credibility. Credibility creates influence. Influence, when aligned with purpose, transforms environments. Your country sensed a shift because your endurance matured. You did not quit when it would have been easy. You did not shrink when it would have been safer. You did not compromise when it would have been simpler. Each decision accumulated momentum, and momentum eventually breaks. Barriers that once seemed immovable. Your timing is deeply symbolic. You did not rise detached from your environment. You rose within it. At moments when uncertainty was widespread, when systems were fragile, when narratives felt heavy, a steady presence is amplified. Stability becomes rare. Integrity becomes rare. Courage becomes rare. Rarity carries value, and value carries influence. You may appear unchanged to yourself. You wake up, walk familiar streets, remember the same struggles, yet internally something crystallized, a calm strength, quiet certainty. That is the mark of crossing a threshold. Invisible lines separate who you were from who you have become. Once crossed, thresholds cannot be uncrossed. Your energy emerges now because concealment no longer aligns with your assignment. There was a season when hidden growth protected and prepared you. That season has ended. Exposure is no longer a threat, it is a platform. Platforms do not always look like stages. Sometimes they are responsibility, expectation, pressure. Pressure refines, and you have been refined. Some will attempt to analyze your rise logically. They will point to timing, connections, strategy, or coincidence. Yet there is a deeper force at work. Favor that cannot be manufactured. Grace that cannot be duplicated. Alignment that cannot be faked. Spiritually sensitive people recognize that what happened through you had backing beyond human calculation. You accomplished something significant in your country, not by striving for recognition, but by refusing to betray your true self. That refusal created power. Authenticity at scale changes narratives. It challenges stereotypes. It disrupts assumptions. And once assumptions are disrupted, space opens for new realities to emerge. There will be moments when visibility feels heavy, when expectations weigh more, when constant observation is present. But weight is not negative. It is proof of value. No one guards the insignificant. Attention confirms impact. Your movement is not random. It is directional. Even if the full path ahead is unseen, your steps carry embedded intention. God does not initiate momentum without purpose. Your rise is intentional, your timing is strategic, your exposure is precise. Perhaps the most extraordinary aspect is that you never had to declare yourself chosen. You did not need to assert superiority. The evidence of your impact speaks. The shift is visible. The atmosphere acknowledges it. The strongest confirmations are often quiet, subtle recognition that something permanent has shifted. Your energy cannot be hidden because it has reached a level where hiding feels unnatural. You are not seeking visibility. It has begun to seek you. This is the result of deep alignment with your divine design. Before public recognition, long before whispers circulated, there was preparation, testing, endurance. Every hidden season led to this phase. You are no longer a mere participant in your nation's story. You have become a reference point. Reference points are remembered. They mark what is possible. They demonstrate that ceilings can be broken. Your energy is not temporary hype. It is sustained presence. Sustained presence reshapes landscapes over time. Even if you do not fully grasp the magnitude, the ripple effect has already begun, and ripples do not ask permission to expand. What occurred through you affected more than structures. It altered internal narratives across your environment. Every nation holds invisible agreements about what is possible, who is allowed to rise, and how far someone from a certain background can go. These unspoken codes shape reality as powerfully as any law. You disrupted one of those silent agreements. You proved the script was not final. Disruption of this kind does not fade quickly. It lingers in conversations, in thoughts, in private reflection of those who once assumed ceilings were fixed. Even those reluctant to acknowledge it feel the change internally. They may not celebrate or congratulate you, yet something within recognizes that boundary shifted. Once a boundary moves, it cannot revert without effort. You have forced effort upon the old narrow, which is why the atmosphere around you now feels different. Not because you are attempting to project, but because you are operating at a new level of embodiment. There is a difference between potential and embodiment. Potential is what could be. Embodiment is what already is. You have moved from potential to embodiment. And embodiment carries weight, certainty, and gravity. Those who embody their calling cease chasing confirmation. They become confirmation. That is what has happened with you. God has given you not only ability, but identity, the identity required to sustain impact. Identity sustains influence. Without it, success is unstable. With it, success becomes an extension of self, not an accident. Resistance along the way did not indicate misalignment. It indicated that you were pressing against comfort zones, long accustomed to stability. Systems resist evolution. Comfort resists change. Mindsets resist expansion. You did not appear suddenly. Your rise was built layer by layer, decision by decision. Private sacrifices, unseen discipline, internal battles, all strengthened your foundation. And foundations determine how high something can rise without collapse. What makes your story even more powerful is that through it all, you never abandoned authenticity. You did not reshape yourself to fit expectation. You did not dilute your voice for acceptance. You stood full, is yourself. Standing without distortion creates resonance. Resonance attracts alignment and simultaneously exposes misalignment. Some drew closer to your energy as they sensed your growth. Others stepped back. Neither reaction is random. Growth rearranges surroundings. It recalibrates proximity. Shedding what cannot travel with you at your current frequency is refinement, not loss. God does not elevate someone without also strengthening internal capacity. Your increase in visibility is matched by inner steadiness. Things that once rattled you now pass without effect. Doubts dissolve quickly. This is not indifference. It is maturity. Your country did not just witness an event. It witnessed a standard. Standards reshape cultures slowly but permanently. By demonstrating a new standard consistently, you became a measure. Being a measure is not about superiority, it is about evidence. Evidence of alignment meeting endurance, evidence of identity refusing compromise, evidence of trusting God's timing over human pressure. Seasons that seemed slow were accumulation seasons. Momentum gathered quietly until breakthrough became inevitable. Breakthrough often begins subtly, gradual shifts, quiet recognition, small but profound increases in influence. Externally, it may feel sudden, but internally, it was built gradually. The spiritual dimension ensures support aligns with those walking in purpose. Doors open, connections form, opportunities emerge, confirmation beyond human strategy. Your presence now carries inevitability, not arrogance, not force, but quiet certainty born of endurance and understanding of a larger design. Fear loses dominance when purpose is recognized. Challenges may still appear. Visibility may intensify them, but these challenges refine influence, sharpen clarity, and strengthen focus. You are now participating in collective elevation. Your rise influences what others believe is possible. The ripple multiplies, inspiring quietly, authentically, without announcement. Preparation built clarity, clarity produced direction. Your energy emerges now in unified, mature form. Presence itself communicates authority, quiet, grounded, undeniable. This is more than accomplishment. It is transformation. External results are visible, but internal metamorphosis is the milestone. Destiny is rewritten through alignment, not applause. Your perception of yourself shifts, not with pride, but with awe. Renus, you no longer tolerate small thinking, environments that shrink you, or pretending to be less than who you are. Evolution reshapes the atmosphere. Resistance only reveals that old structures are being tested. You are now magnetic. Observation, admiration, projection, all reveal alignment or misalignment. Symbols of possibility, proof of perseverance, and evidence of divine backing manifest through your consistency, endurance, and authenticity. You have shifted your nation. Not by force, but by becoming fully who you were designed to be.